Join us for a ride on Canada's oldest and busiest subway, a network that might be technically smaller than it was at its peak, but is about to get a lot bigger, and a system that hides some interesting secrets. Welcome back to Toronto, Canada's largest city. In this hub of culture and business on Lake Ontario, we're interested in the public transportation. On this channel, you've watched us ride the commuter rail, the streetcars, even the ferries. What we have not yet covered is the transit system used by over 1 million people a day, the Toronto subway. So today, we're taking our first ever ride on the subway, and to get there, we're taking the streetcar to Bathurst Station on Line 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom, I'm at Bathurst Station in Toronto, Canada. Just arrived here on that streetcar and now I'm about to ride the Toronto subway for the very first time. Transferring could not be easier.
The streetcars have a dedicated platform here that connects straight to the stairs headed down towards the subway station. We actually bought our ticket earlier at Union Station when we boarded a streetcar, and a ticket costs $3.35, and it gives us unlimited transfers for 2 hours. Perfect for this subway ride. Now we're down at the platform level. The signature font seen on the stations was specifically developed for the subway. The subway is operated by the Toronto Transit Commission, or TTC, the same agency as the streetcars. Line 2 is exclusively served by these older trains, the T-Series. Built in 1995, each car is isolated, meaning you can only walk between cars at stations. How are these cars only 30 years old? They look ancient.
The platforms have payphones. We've gotten rid of all the payphones in Washington, D.C.
I'll explain why these cars are restricted to this line in a little bit, but first, let's go for a ride. We'll take it eastbound to Bay Station. This is the subway map of Toronto. As you can see, there are currently 3 lines. The Bloor-Yonge line isn't the original line though. The first section of the subway opened in 1954 underneath Yonge Street.
The next station is St. George.
This now forms part of Line 1. It was extended in 1963 to St. George under University Avenue, forming a lopsided U shape. Bloor-Yonge line opened in 1966 from Keele to Woodpine stations, and this led to a very interesting service pattern. We've arrived at Bay to learn all about it.
Arrived at Bay Station in Yorkville. Trains look like trash cans, and I don't mean they're dirty, they're quite clean. They just physically look like garbage cans. It's so weird. Anyways, here at Bay Station, there's a really fun secret that I want to show you.
First, let's take a look at some of the features on the platform, like this designated waiting area. These are supposed to be the safest spot of the platform, with extra cameras and lighting. Bay is also where the subway's Lost and Found office is, but that's not its most famous feature. Bay is known for having an abandoned second platform underneath the one that we're standing on. And I walked down the platform until I found a door with a view of the second platform. So why is this here? Well, when the Bloor-Yonge line opened in February 1966, the TTC implemented 3 service types: a system of interlining that allowed a passenger to take a one-seat ride from any station to any station. Trains coming from University Avenue used the bottom level, while trains from Kiel used the top level, which led to two problems. First, a delay anywhere would impact the whole system. But also, for passengers traveling eastbound to Woodbine, trains left from either level. So people waited in the stairwells and would then run up or down to whichever train came first. After a survey showed that the public was pretty much indifferent to interlining, the TTC got rid of it in September for operational simplicity. The platform is still put to good use though. Driver training, storage, experiments, even army training. It's hosted all of that. But most famously, the lower bay platforms have been used as a movie set. It's perfect. You can film here without getting in the way of trains. It's been modified in the past to look like New York or Chicago, and it's been featured in all these works. After 1966, the system did keep expanding, including the 1985 opening of the Scarborough RT, a weird line that, due to political pressure, used a technology identical to the Detroit People Mover, not the rest of the system. The Shepherd line opened in 2002, and in 2013, the lines all got numbers, 1 through 4. Line 1 was last extended in 2017, and the Scarborough RT shut down in 2023 and was dismantled. Today, there are 70 stations on 70 kilometers of track.
So that was really cool that you can kind of see the stairs to that platform. Unfortunately, it wasn't open today. Anyways, I have since taken the train one more stop to Yonge Station because, I mean, old trains are great, but I know that the TTC also has the Toronto Rocket trains. I want to see one of those, so I'm going to try my luck on line 1.
This is the Toronto Rocket. Quite an iconic train, if you ask me, even if it's just for the name. The Rockets have been in service since 2011. They are currently used on lines 1 and 4. 6-car sets run on line 1, while 4-car sets run on line 4. And their most defining feature isn't this light-up map, it's the open gangways. You can walk the entire length of the train from front to back. Longtime viewers know that I've always been a fan. Not only does it improve capacity and spread out crowds, it's also better for safety purposes. Line 1 uses something known as one-person train operation. The operator does all the tasks themselves, tasks that were previously divided between them and a train guard. Line 2 still uses train guards, who open and close the doors. Another difference between lines 1 and 2 is the signaling system. The Toronto Rockets use a train control system known as Communications-Based Train Control, or CBTC. Installation of CBTC on line 1 was completed in 2022.
Arriving at College Station. Doors will open on the right.
It allows trains on line 1 to run with shorter headway. The T-Series trains on line 2 do not have CBTC built in, but use a more traditional fixed block signaling system. There are no plans to install a CBTC in them as it would be very expensive, so essentially that means that the T-Series cannot run safely on line 1. Reversely, the Rockets can run on line 2 and have in the past. For example, in 2016 when it was really hot and some of the older trains had broken air conditioning. Other than the train control system, all 3 existing lines are compatible with each other and still physically connected over by base station. They all draw their power from a third rail electrified at 600 volts direct current, and all 3 lines use a track gauge slightly wider than standard gauge, known as Toronto gauge. To learn about why the tracks are wider, check out my video on the Toronto streetcars, where I explain this history. There had been talks of building a subway in Toronto since the early 1900s, but the plans for the existing system were first approved by voters right after World War II. Initially, they wanted to use trains like the 6000 series that ran on the L in Chicago, but cost led them to eventually pursue other English-built vehicles. From the 1960s on, rolling stock was built in Canada. Right before Union Station, we make a sharp turn to the west, no longer running underneath Yonge Street. At Union Station, you can transfer to the streetcars underground. Transfer is also available to GO Transit and Via Rail, of course. And then we turn sharply again, traveling north underneath University Avenue. It is pretty remarkable that a train that was just southbound is now traveling northbound, just a few blocks west of where we were. Because the stations underneath University Avenue are located at the same cross streets as the stations under Yonge Street, rather than also being named after the streets, they are named after churches or other points of interest nearby.
Please stand clear of the doors.
It has always surprised me a little bit that the Toronto subway is so small in comparison to other cities. 3 lines is not that much compared to cities similar in size around the world. Of course, Toronto has preserved much of its old streetcar network, still having the longest system in North America, and that certainly contributes, but Toronto also has quite a bit of sprawl, and funding for the subway has been limited, as there has been a long period in which the province of Ontario did not fund subway construction. But there is huge growth on its way. Later this year, hopefully, maybe, Line 5 Eglinton and Line 6 Finch West are scheduled to open. Both of these have had their opening date pushed back multiple times, and both will actually be light rail lines, using trams basically, but not connected to the Toronto streetcar system. In fact, not even compatible with the streetcar or the subway, because they'll be using standard gauge instead of Toronto gauge. And then by the 2030s, an additional extension of Line 5, an extension of Line 2, and the construction of the Ontario line will be completed. The Ontario line will be a fully automated metro that will offer some relief to the subway in downtown. All this construction will add 60 new stations to the current 70, almost doubling it.
So I'm back at St. George Station. This is where you can transfer to the 2 line. Basically, I just made a giant loop, but so worth it. Alright, that was my very first time exploring the Toronto subway, and I have to say I really liked it. Unfortunately, I only had like a day to explore Toronto this time around, so I really do need to come back. I'm surprised at how small the network is, but I mean, the existing lines, service was so frequent. Love the open gangways. There's a bunch of other touches that are like so obvious, like every modern transit system should have that.
And though we've only seen a small part of the system today, I'm looking forward to coming back someday and exploring more. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.